people are choosing beyond traditional burials for cremations when it comes to their idea of funerals. Choice Mutual conducted a survey that shows people are having growing interest in eco-friendly funeral alternatives. The CEO of Choice Mutual joins us now to talk about the study and what green burials really are. A lot of people complain about the cost of dying. You end up paying a lot of money. Obviously, if you're dead, you're not paying it. The burden is left on your family members and friends to pay for that funeral. But there are some new options out there. People are opting for different routes to the final resting place. So, Anthony, why don't you tell us some of the options out there that people may be picking right here in the state of Texas or all over the country?
Yeah, there's actually quite a few options that people aren't familiar with other than the standard traditional burial or cremation that people are accustomed to.
And really quick, Anthony, when we talk about burial, give us the high amount and the low amount and why people are trying to avoid that now.
Sure. If you look at national averages, a traditional burial will probably cost right around 10 grand. Now you can find instances where people are much higher than that or even a little bit lower, depending on their preferences and maybe what part of the nation they're in. But if you just look at the average, a traditional burial is about 10 grand. Cremation is going to be a little bit less. The latest numbers indicate that an average cremation service is going to cost right around like 6 grand in some cases. But again, it could be higher or lower depending on your preferences. What a lot of people aren't familiar with is if they opt for what's called a direct burial, which I don't think many people are fond of, because with a direct burial, or I should say direct cremation as well, is when there's like no funeral services of any kind. They literally just like bury the body or cremate the body and that's it. There's nothing. That can substantially reduce the cost. So, the latest figures on direct burial can be as low as $2,100. Cremation could be $1,200. But again, most people typically aren't fond of that because they want to honor their loved ones and have some sort of ceremonial process.
And you can, Anthony, in theory, do that at home. What we did was cremated my sister years ago, and the family gathered at home with some religious leaders, and we just sat and talked about her, and that gave us closure. It's not a fancy church or funeral home, but it brought closure.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the things people can do to lower the cost of a funeral is have some of those like wake services at a person's home as opposed to paying a funeral home for their chapel and the people, obviously, they have to administer it as well. So that's something a lot of people aren't even familiar with that's even possible to do. But beyond cremation and burial, there's like a lot of other options. Like probably the most common one is a green burial, and that's essentially where they don't use like your traditional casket that would just basically stay as is in the ground. The casket is meant to be biodegradable, and they also use materials so that essentially over time everything's going to break down like any other piece of organic material would. Then there's crazy things like you can have your ashes made into jewelry, you can have it made into stones, you can have your ashes actually sent to space, you can have a variety of things that people just have no idea existed, but there's a lot of options out there.
And I guess when you have, say, the green burial, you have to get past the psychological part and realize that that's just a vessel that your loved one was in. They're no longer there. Or if you're religious, their spirit is now gone. If you believe in resurrection, they'll get a new body. But you have to psychologically get over the fact that that's no longer them.
Right. Yeah, there's eventually going to be nothing in that ground there. You're definitely right about that. And I think most people would probably be okay with it. I think the problem is most people just don't know that's available. Because when you go to a funeral home, they're not going to offer you these options that don't make them the highest profit margin. That's just the way, for-profit businesses work in most cases. So when you go to a funeral home, you're going to be typically offered the traditional burial or even cremation. They're not going to generally present these alternative options. The people that do these things, for some reason, they've done research or they heard about it, and that's what leads them down those paths. But for most people, when a person passes away, they just think, I got to go to the funeral home, and that's not bad per se. But when they do that, they're going to run into their traditional options and not know that the other things exist.
For those who would like some of the options that you have listed, and you have more options that you guys have available, where should they go? How should they start that search? Obviously, you probably want to do it before
Yeah.
death because then you're emotional and you just want to
Yeah.
get things over and you want to bring that closure. You may want to do
Right.
it in advance, but where can they go to get more information on that?
So I will say this first, everybody should pre-plan regardless of what kind of funeral service you want. Because if you don't, you are essentially condemning your loved ones to do it for you at a time when they're under great emotional distress. They've just lost you, and then in a matter of one day, they have to make all these complicated decisions. And so everybody should pre-plan, figure out what they want, and then how they're going to pay for it. That aside, if somebody was interested in like these alternative funeral options, I would suggest that they start with Google, because a lot of these, especially if you go deep down the rabbit hole, because there's literally dozens of alternative funerals that you can do. Like, for example, I'm sure very few people have ever heard of having your ashes sent into space. Granted, that's an expensive proposition, but most people don't know it exists. So I would recommend people go online, just look at like alternative funeral options, because generally they're not going to be something that you're going to find in your local area. And that's not bad per se, but you're probably not going to find one in your actual town that could provide it to you.